Hey there, we're the Westlaw Pirates and welcome to the show. We're here to share our thoughts on Northwestern athletics and college sports with thoughts and analysis from the visceral to the statistical. We run our tailgate with the red pirate flag flying high above as we give no quarter, especially the fourth. I'm Sam Walter.
I'm John Lacombe.
And I'm Eric Skoskauspo.
So, I hate Nebraska. This is famously a long-held tenet of my existence. And leading up to this game, I didn't have that sort of like what our friend Walsh would call, I didn't have my hate bunny. The little ball of hate. It wasn't there this week. I don't know why, but so all of a sudden, going into that game and watching kind of the way Northwestern performed in the first half, and then what happened in the opening kickoff of the second half, and just everything. Oh, the hate bunny is back. Oh, my hatred for Nebraska rises. Although it wasn't even all. I mean, we'll get into the refereeing of it all in a little bit, but I mean, it's a Northwestern Nebraska. It's a tight game. It always is, and Nebraska seemed to have the upper hand on it for most of the game, and then just we had opportunities, but when it mattered most, it didn't come through. So, Nebraska converts 4 of 4 third downs on that final drive.
4
of 4 third down conversions on that last drive as they, took the lead and then held on 28-21. Northwestern, we had plenty of opportunity to win this game. It's not like we didn't get blown out. It was, the numbers were even, obviously minus the kickoff return, but it felt like this was one that got away, even though we never had the lead.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
I don't totally agree with the, Nebraska felt like at the start of this game, and I'll be honest, I got caught up. I saw a number of tweets from nobody that, I'm not trying to point fingers here, but there was a lot of confidence amongst the Northwestern fan base online, and that made me very nervous as we approach this game. It has nothing to do with anything that actually happened on the field, but I was just thinking oh man. And then I started this game late. My son and I were in the car coming back from the pumpkin patch, and we threw the game on delay. And when Nebraska got the ball on their first drive, and immediately it was clear that we had angry, focused Nebraska instead of a more pliable Nebraska, we'll say. That made me quite worried. And I even said to Robbie, I said, I don't have a great feeling about this. And at the same time, they scored on their first drive, and then they didn't score again until the first time they touched the ball in the second half. A play which should have never happened, frankly. We'll get there. And then didn't score again until we gifted them a touchdown off of a pick late in the third, and then their last drive of the game. And so this was a game that kind of went in phases. They struck first, we struck back to get it very close at half. They struck again at the beginning they at the beginning and toward the end of the third quarter, and then we fought back to tie it. We had that pick where we all thought, oh my God, it's going to happen. Northwestern's going to win this game, and then everything fell apart. So this felt very back and forth to me, and this was an emotional roller coaster in ways that none of our other games to date have been.
It was, certainly. And within the context of the game, highest of highs, lowest of lows, mm-hmm. Right? Let me tell you, in Miller's Ale House in Lombard, where we had quite the nice little crew for this game, boy, I'll tell you, on that comeback, everything that happened in this game through that stretch, right through Uline's interception, man, we were on cloud 9. And I think at that moment, everyone... and this is the kind of the duality of it, because at that moment, I think any Northwestern fan would have said we were going to win, not just because of being pumped up, but because Northwestern wins those games. Like that was a Fitz thing. That's a Braun thing. Northwestern's record, we all know what Northwestern's record in close games is. It's just unbelievably good. And when we came back and got that, and then really, I mean, and you mentioned it after the game, Scuzz. I mean, the hold call on Martez Lewis, which I mean, certainly like the ref was well within his rights to call that. It also had he not called it, it would have been. Had he not called it, no one would have looked for it because Lewis was totally controlling his guy.
It was behind the line. It was behind the play too.
Yeah, and it was behind the play. But if that play doesn't get called, we also very likely win this game. And because you pointed that out right after the game, and it's totally true. This game was incredibly close, as Sam said, as these series tend to be. I think we all know, and this I'm sure the team feels this way, every one of you listening feels this way. There's this overarching feeling that Northwestern let this one get away. And that in any number of ways, right? I mean, you can point to any number of little moments, but you can also point to like the tackling problems early in the game, the way that Nebraska you mentioned the way they came out focused, guys, the way Nebraska was kind of controlling the line of scrimmage on offense at the beginning of this game before our defense kind of rallied and got it back together. But then you can look at the last drive and the way that Nebraska converted. And again, like, then you get the flip side, where on that final scoring drive, Nebraska's not controlling the line of scrimmage, but we keep having coverage errors in the secondary, and they converted several third downs, and these weren't 3rd and 1s. I mean, I think they converted like a couple 3rd and 7s on that drive.
Yeah.
The kickoff return, which just, again, like you mentioned, like totally preventable, like this Nebraska's first kickoff return for a touchdown in 8 years. And then, of course, like Stone wasn't on his best and, a couple turnovers. But it's like all of those things. This is the kind of game where we got a focused Nebraska. I think it's clear to everyone that these teams are very evenly matched. And we were trying to pick up a road win. And again, yeah, there is that officiating piece of it. Although I think the larger piece is the officiating was just really rough in this game in general.
Like it was bad both ways.
Yeah. Before we get sucked into that, I think the point you're making, John, is a really important one because this was not our best game, but we were still a hair's whisker, a play away.
Yeah.
From a win at Lincoln. And I think I want to channel some positivity here because I don't think there was nothing in this game that went counter to who I believe Northwestern is in terms of the identity that they found in this season.
Right. Sure. Absolutely.
There's nothing about this game that changes the potential trajectory of what this team could do down the stretch of the last 4 games of this season. And I think there are a lot of the positives that we lauded going into this game were centered around the idea of like, can you believe this team is 5-2 given where we were at the beginning of the season? Before we even saw Northwestern step on the field at Tulane, we thought this game was going to be extremely difficult. A margins game, let's hope Northwestern has come together and found themselves to be able to go to Lincoln with a shot. Let's just hope we have a shot. And we had way more than just a shot.
Yeah.
And that's something to take home. I'm definitely pulling in silver linings here, but at the same time there's no jumping off a cliff here.
But that said, it definitely feels like there was a lot of sort of resigned doom and gloom coming out of it. It's like let's pump the brakes here, guys. I mean, like, yeah, it hurts to lose to Nebraska, and it hurts to lose a game that we very easily could have won. But you're absolutely right. We very easily could have won that game. We're sitting here at 5-3 with, there's some tough games ahead. Sure, there is also some winnable games ahead. Like this is not a situation where we're going to just drop them all down the stretch. This is a solid team, and we're going to play some really good football coming down the stretch here.
There's plenty of teams on our schedule that had a lot worse Saturdays than we did. Let's put it that way. And we'll get to that later. But yeah, I think, to go back to what Scuzz was saying, I think coming out of the Tulane game, the overarching feeling was this team is lost, and we don't know what the identity of this team is. We don't know what. In this game, it was like, and this is like to Scuzz's point, even when things weren't good in this game, it's still like, dang it, look at how good we are guys, like, we're getting in our own way here. I mean, in this game, Komolafe and Hyman had 162 yards on 25 carries. Komolafe alone had 125 and 2 touchdowns. Clearly, like, the holes kept getting opened up. The line of scrimmage was getting controlled. The defense settled in after that kind of like early hit in the mouth, and after, again, Emmett Johnson, who we said before is a quality football player and is their entire running game.
He's the second leading runner in the Big Ten. I did not know that going in.
And they have
that's wild.
And they have no one else. They run the entire running game through him, but he's a slippery guy, and there were a couple of just...
Well, credit where credit's due. I mean, clearly, Rule and Holgerson spent the whole week with this team practicing run blocking, and probably lecturing Dylan Raiola every single day. Hand the ball off. Don't hold the ball too long. Don't get sacked. Because the story on Nebraska coming in was that Emmett Johnson was good, and a lot of his goodness got erased by Dylan Raiola sacks. And they avoided that against us. And they were extremely effective running the ball with Johnson. Johnson was very, very, not just slippery, but like powerful in the way he was running through our D. Now, we also tried to tackle him around the shoulders a lot, which you guys alluded to earlier, which is a real problem.
And that's the thing. Yeah, it's like he's clearly good. We were clearly as good. And again, it's like it's not like there are any like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe we mailed this in. No, it's several little moments, and you get any one of them back, and maybe that's the one that changes the game. It's like, and to your point about like Raiola, and I would say Holderson had a great game plan. They ran a ton of RPO. Raiola was getting the ball out, and he didn't have a great game.
No,
but
he
did
not.
a lot of dink and dunk.
16 to 22 is a decent percentage, but like only 140 yards, the touchdown and the pick. I mean,
but
we kind of thought going in, like, if Raiola goes off, then we're in real trouble. He didn't go off.
I think their modus operandi
22 runs against, or 40 runs against 22 passes.
Yeah,
I think their modus operandi
did not expect that.
Like to be expected of a team that gave up, what was it, 7 sacks, 9 sacks, whatever it was. Their modus operandi was get the ball out.
Yep.
They were just like, we're not going to take sacks this week. So, I mean, credit to them there, credit to Johnson and his ability. But again, Johnson had averaged 4.6 yards a carry. Like, the defense stepped up. And that's the thing, is even when things were going wrong, it's just like the talent on this team is so clear. I mean, Elegon had a ridiculous game catching the football. He had the bobble pass, which of course folds into the whole officiating piece, but that was an unbelievable catch. His catch on the 2-point conversion was incredible. Welsing made that unreal catch on his 22-yarder.
That back shoulder was sick.
Yeah,
it was sick.
Unbelievable. Guys made great plays in this game. There were a lot of great individual efforts. There's a lot of great individual. But like Sam said, this series is always close. These games are always rock fights. And on the road, I mean, it's the kind of situation, good enough to cover, not good enough to win, and that feeling, that bitter taste. And I think to your thing about like the people pulling their hair out after this game, I mean, I think that's the thing is everyone knew that we're arriving at the hard part of the schedule here. It's all games. We can win any of these games with our best game, but there's that feeling that we didn't put it all together. Like we left it on the table, and that we could have easily won this game.
So, when it all when it's down to the razor's edge, right? It's you can't really point to any one thing. Like, you can't say this is the one thing that caused us to lose the game, because there were a lot of little things that all came together. We don't kick off to the guy right out of the half. All that said, we didn't have the best game from Preston Stone. The 2 interceptions, one was a real backbreaker. The second one was the backbreaker, right? We just gotten where we thought was right, down in the inside the 10-yard line, called back by a hold, and then an interception that when you first saw it, it's like, where was that going? And then you look at it a few more times, like, okay, maybe the official was screening him a little bit, but he didn't have the best game. And it wasn't even then. It wasn't as bad as the Tulane game. Like the Tulane game was real bad. This one was not great.
No, I mean it wasn't a good game, and I think like if you compare it to the Tulane game, he was as lost as everyone else on that offense were, right? Like that was it was a non-functioning offense in week 1, right? But this is a guy who for a month at least, right? Protected the football incredibly well, and this was just a game where he didn't protect the football well. Both of the passes over the middle were passes that could not have been thrown. He also put the ball on the deck on a read option that we recovered. I think Berenson fell on. And then his accuracy just wasn't there overall today. I mean, there were several open receivers where the ball just didn't find them. Where I think we start to get annoyed is. And again, like we all know like the burned history of this fan base. We know the well that we'll all go down as Northwestern fans. But people immediately want to jump to absolutes, and it's like this game has to define who Preston Stone is. And it's like, folks, literally, we just watched this friggin' guy lead a team 75 yards down the field in Happy Valley to beat Penn State. Like that was weeks ago. It's the same person. It's like he just didn't have a good football game. And it's like there's, it's you want him to learn lessons, right? And you want him to be like, okay, these are some of the things, maybe like little regression, things that you would kind of overcome, and then you backslid a little on these, on those throws over the middle. But like, it's like we're riding with this guy. This is a guy who has had big moments for this football team now that have led to big wins. This is our guy, and we're confident in him going down the stretch. And that was the thing. It was like there was a little too much of that. There was a little bit too much of, oh, here we go. This is Preston Stone, and this is why we can't. And it's like,
yeah. Put that away.
Yeah.
So, I can understand some of that mentality, and it's not Stone's fault. But I think what you're really hearing when people say that is we've been searching for the quarterback that can throw for 250 yards a game for 7 years now.
A long time.
Since Clayton Thorson graduated, it has been, I mean, even like Peyton Ramsey barely got over 200. There were times when Ben Bryant was dealing in that way. And he had an exceptional receiver core to work with as well. And I think it's not when I hear people saying that, I think it's more bemoaning the state of Northwestern's passing game. And it's a lot of folks who, like us, grew up during the Randy Walker era, those early Fitz years with Garrick McGee, early stage Mick McCall, and I guess even late stage Mick McCall. I mean, there are a lot of problems with Mick McCall, but the passing game was never one of them when he was calling passes. That was part of the problem. Like, I mean, you look at Thorson during those years, and I think what is clear at this point is that it's not about Stone per se, but Stone and this receiver group in Lujan's offense is not going to be a 250 to 300 yard a game, maybe ever in a game, passing attack. And I think it's okay to be frustrated with that. And I think it's okay to be critical of that. Where it bothers me is, we talked about this nonstop after those first 2 games of the year. And it was this constant perspective we had around, like, we've got to find the receiver core that is going to help unlock Preston Stone. And they put it together against Oregon and UCLA. Mm-hmm. And then they did it again against Penn State. And coming off of, what was we'll say an up and down offensive game against Purdue, I think coming into this game, there was a real, like, hey, we're going to win on the ground. We're going to win being conservative. We are going to, this was a very Fitz mentality game. We're gonna come in, we're gonna control it, we're gonna win by 1 score. And I don't know, given some of the wind, some of the inaccuracy, the protection of the ball, that just general execution was a little sloppy. I don't know that if they'd come in with a different game plan, that this passing attack could have gone for 250 or 300. I think that's probably what you're hearing. The frustration is, even if they had brought that game plan, they couldn't have delivered something like that. But it's the absence of that modern, effective passing game when you need it. And that's kind of the key. It doesn't have to be the identity every week, but when you need it, we don't seem to have it in our bag.
I guess I would come back on that a little bit, being like, this team rushed for 172 yards, and if that Lewis play doesn't get called, it's add on however many that was. I think it's like a run first. Like Stone, like they threw 29 passes. Like, my big thing is like, and to your point, I'm like, if we're gonna play this kind of offense, obviously like the onus on the quarterback is like the first pick, for example, is like, and this was something that we talked about earlier on in the season, which is like, you can just run for 2 or 3 here and then go down. Like we'll go back to the drawing board. Like the base running game can pick up yards, but you can't turn the ball over, right? And again, I think like he wasn't, like we talked about it. Like you look at Wagner only has 1 reception, but they went after him a couple of times, and one of the times Stone threw a pretty good ball into coverage, and the other time Stone just missed him, and Stone missed a couple of guys. Like, it again, wasn't his best day. But again, and it's like, obviously, we were all watching in the moment. The second pick was a backbreaker. It was. Like, it was an absolute deflator. So, I mean, that's going to color people's emotions on that situation.
Yeah, there's a recency bias there.
Right. Yeah, and yeah. I totally get that. I think where we all come down, though, right, is like, if there is a situation where the offense dials in, like we had a bad game from Preston Stone today. Was it one of those little moments that could have turned the game? Sure, but there were other ones too, right? But whether be it the last Nebraska scoring drive, the kickoff, the early tackling problems, all of that stuff, early. Right? All of those things. I would flip it and say, there may be a game, and this is 100% possible. There may be a game in the final 4 games where we get a great game out of Preston Stone, and that is the difference that wins us the game.
I mean, a great game out of Preston Stone was the difference at Penn State.
Right. And that's the exact thing. And it's like, so, I mean, we're just, it's think what you want to think, feel how you want to feel. Like, we're not here to police anybody here. But, you all know we're very much about, like, trying to be as positive as we can and build guys up and look ahead to the positive things. And I don't think any of us feel like that's pie in the sky with Stone. We've seen what he can do.
Shall we talk about the officiating a little bit? I know it's sour grapes to like talk about the officiating, but I mean, in this case, both sides have legitimate gripes. I mean, well, and let's start with the one that went for us. The fourth and 2 that Elegon bobbled. He was coming back to the ball. It bobbled a little bit. It seemed pretty clear to me that he got control short of the line to gain, and the on replay they said no, it was good. I was sort of sitting there thinking, is like, okay, anytime you're in a situation where like they call in Mike Pereira, the rules analyst, right? And he's like, oh, this is clear. And it goes the other way. Not once, but like 2 or 3 times they went to Pereira and the refs came up with the opposite version.
Newsflash, has been happening a lot the last couple of years in football. I might just add.
Yeah.
But I generally agree with you.
It just seemed kind of weird and arbitrary, and like some of the calls were just out of nowhere, and then some non-calls were just like, okay, what? And I speak specifically of the last play of the game, or what basically was essentially the last play of the game. The deep pass where Wildy got tackled like 10 yards down.
Well, it wasn't the tackle; it was he got tugged on the double move.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. He got tugged on the double move. That's what I was referring to. Is he got mugged, and the pass was over his head. And I get not calling pass interference on the throw, but there is deep, like the most clear case of defensive holding I've almost ever seen.
It was, and again, it's the same as like on that fourth down. I think we all thought he didn't get it, and yeah, they didn't overturn it. So any Nebraska fan that's coming back with that, like, it's not like that argument doesn't hold water. But yeah, it just, for it to be the last play of the game, and I mean that's one of those things where it's like the officials are going to get reprimanded for that. They get graded on this stuff, and you have a deciding play of the game, right? He grabs him around the waist. It's clear as day. Like, I don't know what the ref was looking at. And then beyond that point, if you're the ref and you somehow blew that call, the corner's been burned. That's why he grabbed him around the waist. So now he's flying blind. And we all know that the rule with corners is if you're flying blind, you better not touch him, because if you touch him, it's a flag. And they didn't call that either. And it's just like a corner who was so thoroughly burned that he committed defensive holding and then could have been called for defensive pass interference. It wasn't called on either of them on like a play of the game. It's egregious. And that doesn't mean that the fourth down thing is not true, because it's also true. But I think, yeah, the overarching thing you take away from all this is like, man, the last thing you want to see in a rock fight in a closely contested football game is horrible officiating, and this was pretty bad.
I'll push back on the pass interference.
Yeah, I will too. There was no actual contact there. It was
like,
just
was he flying blind? Yes, but
they just fell into each other. Yeah, there was no tackling at the end of that.
Yeah,
it was the defensive holding that was the egregious one.
I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, the defensive holding was like the egregious situation. It's just like when you look at it all, I'm just like, this is a corner who's been so thoroughly burned that he's already committed defensive holding, and now he's just running and he's like going after it. And, you know, it's like if Stone had thrown that ball a little bit less, you know, or even if Stone had underthrown it, the guy would have crashed right into the Wildy's back, and then it would have been PI. And that's the thing. Like, Stone threw it a little bit long, but he probably thought his man was going to be a little bit downfield. It's obvious that's who the play was for. That's what the double move was for. The whole play set up exactly how they wanted it to set up. That's where they were going. Nebraska got pressure. They had the double move look that they wanted, and, you know, the hold made the difference in the play.
I will say, grousing about the passing game earlier in the day, the effectiveness of the double moves, which I can't say is something we ever saw during the Mike Bajakian era. The effectiveness of the double moves against Nebraska was quite palpable, because you had the big pass play to Wildy. Elegon had a 30-yarder as well, and then I believe there was at least one PI, maybe two, that we picked up on account of those double moves. It was a really effective mechanism. There just wasn't enough. I think one of them to go with it.
I think one of them. I believe this is true. One of them released Wagner on the play where he was overthrown and he made the diving attempt to catch it. There, yeah. I mean, I thought it was, again, it's like it's important to it's Stone did not have his A game today, and it is what it is. It's a reason why we didn't lose. It's not the reason why we lost. There are multiple reasons, any number of which could have turned this way. And again, I keep coming back to a play that none of us thought was incredibly significant in the moment. But if they don't call that hold on Lewis, we probably win this football game, and that's it. And I mean, it's just like those are the margins. It just is that tight. And you know what? It's probably going to be like that against Michigan. It's probably going to be like that against Minnesota. It's probably going to be like that against Illinois. But I'm confident if any of those games we get a hot Preston Stone, like that will be a huge benefit to us in those games. So, you know, but again, yeah, the reffing was a giant pain in the moment, and I think we were all tearing our hair out, Northwestern Nation, when that hold wasn't called. But, you know, just a poorly officiated game.
You know, we mentioned it earlier, but big flowers to Caleb Komolafe. You know, he had a monster game, and like breaking free and busting off that long touchdown run was just glorious. And, you know, he was doing what he wanted to do most of the game. It was awesome.
He's been great all season. I think I saw today that it's his second 100-yard game of the season, and that he's the first Northwestern running back to do that since Evan Hall in 2022.
Whoa,
which I'm
what?
like,
wow.
Which I was kind of like, yikes.
It's been running back by committee.
Yeah, it's but that's the thing. I mean, he's had an awesome season, like deservedly so, and And the line, too, that 56-yarder was a classic case of he knew to bounce it outside, but the line totally controlled the line of scrimmage. It's like, that wasn't like a broken play. Like, that's what happens when you're dominating the line of scrimmage. Defensive linemen get held up, and linebackers collapse but don't get through, and then a good running back bounces it outside. And Komoloffe did that against Penn State, too. He's got great instincts. And his cutting is so much better post his injury and everything. He had an awesome game.
It's rare that we've had a back at Northwestern that can cut and then cut and then cut again. Justin Jackson was kind of famously a cut and go running back who was exceptionally good at running behind the zone blocking scheme that we employed in those days, where basically like run behind the line, wait for the hole to form, put your foot in the ground and go. And then he, always fell forward through contact to get that extra, half yard, etc. But I feel like you got to go back to someone like Tyrell Sutton before you really get the type of running back that had the power and the speed combo, like the elusiveness.
A guy who is a truck. Yeah.
Yeah. And I always described Sutton as like a pinball. He would just pinball off of people and fly around.
Absolutely.
But watching Como cut to get through the hole and then set up a linebacker and then set up a defensive back, his shiftiness is quite incredible.
Yeah.
I want to call out, we talked about him last pod, Mac Uline, who already was the only player with 50 tackles and 5 TFLs and 3 picks. Well, now he's got a 4th pick.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's probably the hardest of those things to achieve. So, man, he continues to just be awesome.
You talk about it, like, is this a first team all Big Ten caliber season? Literally, he's the only one in the nation putting up these stats. There's no other player in the nation doing what he's doing right now, 100%. Robert Fitzgerald, yet again, another 7 solo tackles. Unreal, the performance he's coming in. One really important thing, and it is worth mentioning, as brutal as that last Nebraska scoring drive was, a really important piece of context is, by that point in the game, Northwestern was down 2 corners.
Yeah.
Yep.
We found out that Ore Adey wasn't going to be playing prior to this game, and then Josh Fussell got hurt during the game, and Evan Smith was pressed into major service, and he had his moments.
That first play, that pass breakup was bananas.
Yep. It was huge.
Yeah.
It was huge.
He came in and they went at him immediately.
Which is what you do. You always target like the reserve corner when they come in.
Yeah, and it wasn't perfect, and I think we know that Northwestern, has really been trying to figure some things out. I think Robert Fitzgerald, we know, has been banged up. He's working through some stuff. So there were a couple times where he had to leave the field, and then you're really depleted. And that's not an excuse. Again, the coverage on that last drive was really rough. But it's guys working through some things, and it's guys playing through injuries and really trying to work to make it happen. And we were deep down the depth chart there, and guys still stepped up and still played really well.
Kilbane and Hubbard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Had real coming out parties today. Hubbard is bad. I don't want to suggest that he hasn't had an incredible career to date, but and I think got banged up toward the end of this game. But sack, 2 TFLs, 4 solos. He was a menace. I think that one just power sack that he had, just driving the right tackle backward. And then Kilbane was very noticeable, very impactful on this game.
Yeah. And then, and Hubbs, as always, he's that inside move. When he's on that inside stunt, man, few guys are better in the Big Ten than that. The way he whips inside and gets inside like that. And of course, one of the other guys who's fantastic at that is Anto Saka. It's very clear that he is just fighting through stuff right now. Obviously, he's been in and out the past couple of weeks.
Nebraska clearly had him circled. They were very focused on Saka, making sure that he wasn't going to have an impact, which was, that combined with him, fighting some stuff. But, Fred Davis had some moments. Najee had some moments. Garner Wallace was responsible for at least two of those, like, shoestring. I mean, they weren't shoestring tackles, but what felt like shoestring tackles forcing 4th and 1s from Nebraska. Obviously, Nebraska converted quite a few of those, but that was impressive. I did think some of the defense got caught. A little. Nebraska did a good job countering our aggressiveness, and I think that especially their RPO game, they executed very effectively, and that there were times where. And I mean, against Purdue, against Penn State, it felt like our guys were always in the right position, no matter what the other team was doing. And Nebraska had us on the back foot quite a bit in this game.
Yeah, it's like, again, the talent is everywhere. It's omnipresent and it's obvious at all these different positions. Whether it be like all these guys like Uline, who we've just known are awesome, to these other guys like Komolafe, who's having a breakout year, and all the defensive guys we've talked about breaking out years. Hayden Elegon, who continues to just take leaps and bounds and grow in confidence week to week. This is a super talented team that made a bunch of little mistakes, and any handful of them, and we would have won this game. And I mean, that's the takeaway. This team, obviously playing its best football, can get us to a bowl game, and maybe farther.
And we're in a situation now where we're going into our second bye week, so.
Good timing, given all that defensive injuries we just talked about.
It really is. Like, it gives everyone a chance to kind of rest up. It's get Fussell back, get Adai back from whatever's got him nicked up. Saka obviously missed the one game, and
Komolafe, we didn't even think would be playing in this game. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's late in the season. Everyone's banged up.
Sure.
So having a bye week here is going to be huge, and then coming back. It's actually kind of great that we have a Friday night game off of a bye, because now it's not like coming off the short week, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll talk more about the USC game next week, but just kind of where do we sit going into this bye week?
I mean, again, I think we all know what this team is. We know how strong it is, and we know, though, that there are 4 good teams still on our schedule. And Minnesota obviously had a really rough go, and we'll get into that. But like, we still know how dangerous they are. And you could argue we're not going to have a true home game the rest of the way here, right? Even the Minnesota game, the Gophers are probably really going to show out for that game.
I think Minnesota is a great comp, and I don't want to jump ahead here, but like, we lost a really tight game on the road against a team that we've been locked in combat with since the time they joined the Big Ten. I mean, I think 11 of the 14 matches against Nebraska have gone, single digit or single score. And there's nothing about this game that, again, like we said at the top, that makes us question who Northwestern is or change. Like, this was a speed bump for sure. It's disappointing for sure. This doesn't change what we think this team is capable. Minnesota got absolutely pile driven into the ground.
Right.
By maybe not their arch rival, but like the next closest thing in Iowa.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost it was 31-3?
41-3.
41-3. 41-3. If that doesn't change the trajectory of what you think about Minnesota, like, holy shit.
Right. Unlike us, like, there's a juxtaposition. Minnesota has one guy where they basically have to have him on the field, and that's Darius Taylor. And if they don't have him, and they haven't had him a lot lately, and it's not looking great for how much they may have him down the stretch, they're just a totally different football team. Northwestern's just not that way. This team is down Cam Porter. This team is, has a banged up Caleb Komolafe. We were down several corners. Like, it's not to put the cart before the horse, but it's like teams had worse weekends than that. I think at the same time, we can be realistic and be like, we're gonna take a bye week, and then we're gonna play very likely the second best team on our schedule in USC.
Yeah, and I didn't bring any of that up to suggest that like we're gonna hammer Minnesota when we play them or anything like that. It's more to emphasize, like, I think this bye week is perfectly positioned, and we have a really tough game coming out of this bye week. And whether or not we can be, competitive and have a good shot of winning that, I think I want to see what USC looks like playing Nebraska next week for sure. Going on the road to the West Coast, that's a big challenge, et cetera. But like, this is, if anything, I think Northwestern as a program can be. You could be a little bit guilty of going in too calm and collected to Nebraska. I don't know. I don't know if that makes. I don't know if that even tracks in my own head. But like,
no, it does. I mean, that's basically what I said coming off the top of the show.
Yeah, like there was a business-like quality to going to Lincoln, which I think yeah, it's what you want, but maybe we weren't jacked up enough about this, like we were about going to Penn. I mean, clearly going to Penn State, they were like, we're taking on the world. And they didn't have that feeling going into Nebraska, even though they were 7-point dogs in a game that they should have been 3-point dogs. There's an opportunity to regroup as an organization, as a program, as a team, but in a very concerted and achievable way to regroup, to get back on course, as opposed to a lot of teams that are regrouping and trying to figure out oh shit, what do we do now? Northwestern is not in that space.
No.
And so this bye week is really, really well positioned, and obviously they're going to focus a lot on USC, but whatever they focus on for USC coming off of this game, it's the same stuff that they need to be focusing on for Michigan and Minnesota and Illinois. This is not about oh crap, how do we game plan against Maeva and Lincoln Riley, and what do we how are we going to handle the West Coast, and how do we deal with these 6 problems we have within our own team? No, none of that is true. It's just, how do we get back to executing at 95% instead of 85%? How do we get back? How do we ensure that what was successful for us against UCLA and against Penn State and against Purdue, that we find that and hone that and repeat that in our next 4 games? So this in a way, again, the USC game is almost gravy. That is not where our bread is buttered. That is there, nowhere on our goals list. I'm channeling Braun here. Does it say beat USC? It's about getting healthy and retrenching ourselves in who we are and what we are good at, and building that confidence and going after it against the next 4 opponents, no matter who they are. We don't need to do something dramatically different each time.
Right.
I think, you mentioned Braun's goals. It's credit to Braun for keeping the team focused and having these goals that are lofty goals and are the highest goals that you can set. Every Northwestern fan's goals are to make a bowl game this season. Let's keep it a buck. That's what we've all been hoping for this entire season. And if you boil it down for me, it's all right, so that depends on us beating either. I mean, again, to Scuzz's point, realistic. I want to beat USC. Let's go shock them. Let's go get that Rose Bowl revenge. I'm all in. And we'll get to that next week more. But ultimately, we got to beat either Michigan, Minnesota, or Illinois, and I feel great about our chances. That's the team. We know what this team is. We know that this team has got, those 3 games may all be rock fights, and you know what? I like our chances in all of them. Not that we're going to win all 3, although I'd love for that to happen, but we need 1 to bowl. And I think it can definitely happen. I think we all know what this team's about. We see what we've got, and that's to me, that's where we're at, this final pivot point. I feel like we got a team that's ready to go get one. We're ready to go and bowl and put the capper on what already has been a season that exceeded the nation's expectations.
Exceeded everybody's expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. If you or a loved one is seriously injured by someone else's negligence, hire Kent Simpson of the Simpson Law Group. After over a decade prosecuting murder cases in Chicago, Simpson opened his own firm focused on wrongful death and personal injury cases. He specializes in car, truck, motorcycle, boat, and other transportation accidents, as well as construction accidents, medical negligence, slip and falls, product liability, and more. Millions recovered for clients. No fee unless he wins. The Simpson Law Group, compassion, empathy, and vigorous advocacy. Go to simpsonlawgroup.com or call 312-332-2107 for a free consultation, and go Cats. So I want to briefly run through the rest of the conference. I mean, like, there's not a whole lot to go through here. I mean, Indiana beat the tar out of UCLA. I mean, okay.
We were at Miller's Ale House. At Miller's Ale House, that was the TV that was next to all the TVs that were showing the Northwestern games. So we were all just kind of, and it was like, yep, there's like, anytime Northwestern goes to commercial, it's like, yep, Indiana's still massacring UCLA.
Oregon beats Wisconsin 21-7 in a monsoon. Unfortunately, that breaks Wisconsin's scoreless streak at a lot of, but it was like they scored at the very end of the game. They could have been like 3 straight without a point. That would have been fun.
I'll admit I wanted them to get hammered, and I guess the monsoon saved their bacon.
So it's funny. I was thinking the exact same thing, because for anyone who's curious, and I don't know why you'd want to go down this dark rabbit hole, but I did. In the Northwestern, the darkest of the dark Northwestern periods, I think 1981, which is probably about when it all bottomed out for Northwestern football, and one could therefore argue college football. The most consecutive times Northwestern was shut out was 3. So Wisconsin would have, and that's the entire stretch of that dark period, the dark period you all know and have so long tried to forget, those of you who are old enough to remember it. The most consecutive times Northwestern was ever shut out is 3, and Wisconsin would have tied that. So I was really hoping for it down the stretch, but yeah, alas, they got the one they needed.
Is that like a Big Ten record or anything?
I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. I was looking. It's very dark. That those 3 consecutive times Northwestern was shut out, I think there was part of a 5 and 6 game stretch. So that's about as dark as it gets. But that ought to give you some context of where Wisconsin is right now.
Illinois goes out to Seattle, gets thumped 42-25. Michigan beats up on Michigan State 31-20.
Illinois, this game was more even than the score would kind of indicate, but for turnovers, Illinois had 2 picks. Washington just executed really well, though. They scored on, I think, all but 2 of their drives. Just like, there's just such a different team. There's such a Jekyll and Hyde team, depending if they're playing at home or somewhere east of the Rockies.
And Scuds has made this point too, though. Washington 42, Illinois 25 is kind of the character of this Illinois football team, and it was kind of the character of this Illinois football team last year too. Illinois doesn't have a good defense and can put up points, but you know what? If Illinois is turning the ball over a couple of times, then suddenly, like, a game like this creates itself. Like, remember, Illinois benefited from a lot of good fortune, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, for a year and a half. And when they don't get that kind of luck, and when, like, Luke Altmaier's throwing a couple picks, like, 42-25 creates itself very easily.
When outside of Luke Altmaier scrambling, Illinois' run game did not look great in this game. 22 for 90. That's not the recipe for Illinois football.
Yeah, and again, this is like, just rewind to the start of the season and how we were all thinking about the Illinois game. I don't think this weekend did anything to stop the feeling that these two teams are moving very close together and may be right dead even by the time we get to the end of the season.
I mentioned Michigan over Michigan State 31-20. I mean, I don't know that there's too much to take away from that one.
It sounds like a lot of fans are really, like, we talked a little bit about Jonathan Smith last week, and it's like even darker. It's down the hole even further now.
I mean, this is
to the point that the governor is calling for, and like actually physically removing him from the premises.
We'll
talk about Brian Kelly.
This is the big thing. Michigan's a good football team. There's no doubt about it. They're probably the 4th or 5th best team in the conference, but it's all based on their defense. They're a rock fight team with an awesome defense, particularly against the run. But you can watch, like, week to week, like, they don't look amazing week to week. They're just a really strong defensive football team with a really strong defensive front.
Really good running game too.
Yeah. And a really good running game. But, like, again, Michigan State, like, it's not hard to, like, the wheels are coming off that wagon, and that's the thing you're talking about. His numbers improved a little down the stretch, but Aiden Childs looks like he's forgotten how to play football. I mean, this is a guy that was one of the most fun players in the conference coming into this season, and it's just gone. Like, I don't know what has happened to this poor guy, but the wheels are all the way off, and they're just like floundering. So yeah, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Like, the Jonathan Smith ship has for sure sailed at Michigan State. I don't know what they're going to do about it, but
Did they have the Rutgers Purdue game on at Miller's Ale House? Was that like on TV off in the corner somewhere? I did not see what happened at the end, but it looks just insane.
It was really tight. I forget how it ended. I mean, I saw Shiano celebrating at the end. I honestly didn't watch it, but I know it was.
So Rutgers got 2 field goals in the last minute. So they got a field goal with 1:06 left to tie it, and then Purdue fumbled and put them in a position to, 3 plays, 17-yard drive to kick the game-winning field goal with no time left on the clock. So
I mean, that has got Purdue written all over it, man. Like, that's that football team. That's how they've played all season.
So, Ethan Kaliakmanis, who in 2023 at Minnesota, his high water mark was 292 yards passing against Purdue. And other than that, never eclipsed 200. He had 200 against Michigan State. This season has thrown for 252, 259, 309, 330, 249, 386, 79 against Oregon, and 359 against Purdue. And this does kind of bemoan that point that I made earlier about, like, Ethan Kaliakmanis is not an incredible quarterback. He is not a quarterback that doesn't make a ton of mistakes. There is something about, and it's Kirk Shiraka, so, like, take it with a grain of salt. But, like, what I hope for the future structure of Northwestern is that we can figure out how to be a hard-nosed, blue-collar running team with a quarterback that's capable of throwing for 350 yards a game. That is what I want for the future of Northwestern.
And Ethan Kaliakmanis, I mean, it's to your point, is like, that is a guy who I think we would all say is mediocre to above average with an ungodly amount of equity in college football at this point. Like, that guy's just played a lot of football. He's started a lot of football games, and, in tight moments for a Rutgers team that's not very good, that's probably carrying the day.
And then we talked about it a little bit earlier, but Iowa 41-3 over Minnesota. Wow.
Holy cow.
I mean, yeah.
What this is I forget what game earlier in the year I talked about, or maybe it was the week that the Minnesota Vikings just boat raced the Cincinnati Bengals by like 40 or 50, and I was like, this does not indicate how good Minnesota is, because there was like a scoop and score and a pick six and everything else, and Iowa had a punt return for a touchdown, and they had, I believe, a pick six. Yep, a pick six. There's just, this game got out of hand really fast. And then, John, you mentioned earlier, Darius Taylor had 1 carry for 1 yard. I clearly got hurt and was out. Drake Lindsay couldn't do anything against this defense. They kept intercepting him. At halftime, it was 31-0.
It's yeah.
Like,
it's so
man.
It's so bizarre too, because, and this is like, these weird like Jekyll and Hyde things really for the whole conference week after week, because that Nebraska game, which Minnesota won handily, really runs in the face of Minnesota's last month, because they got smoked by Ohio State, which, whatever, that's Ohio State, but they should have lost big to Purdue. Like, this, to the point we were talking about Purdue totally controlled that football game. It dominated it statistically and just turned the ball over a bunch of times and committed a bunch of penalties. Like, they have been playing some bad football. And yeah, when they don't have their talisman, Darius Taylor, and it really sounds like that. The farther the season goes on, that guy's really taking some miles. And I don't even know to the extent to which we'll see him going forward. I guess we're going to find out. But yeah.
I feel very comfortable saying this because we don't have to play them this year. There's a lot of Iowa fans chirping about how they actually have an offense, this, that, and other thing, because there's a crooked number up there.
That's cute.
Yeah,
they were 4 of 12 on third down, 274 total yards.
Yeah.
Gronowski had 135 passing. Granted, he didn't throw an interception, but this, Iowa continues to just befuddle football strategy and norms.
Yep.
And more power to them. Like, I don't think at this point, Ferentz might practice voodoo. I don't know. But God, I hate it.
Yeah. I don't want to go too deep into the kind of the national scene. A lot of the really fun close games were in the SEC, and that's all well and good.
There's one we probably need to talk about.
There is.
The best job that will come open this year in college football has come open. Like that's the biggest thing. It's like the LSU is the prize, and the Brian Kelly era is done.
Over.
Yeah, that was like to see the stadium that empty at the end of that game. Like that's a night game in Death Valley, and for them to get as thumped as they did by, granted, a very good Texas A&M team. I mean, that is a solid team, and they're ranked number 3 for a reason. But for
there
them
was
to just
a
come in
time
and completely dismantle LSU was just wow.
There was a time where LSU at night in Baton Rouge playing Alabama or Georgia, whoever the top team was on their schedule, meant that it was a rock fight that was going to go to the last possession, and to have a lead at halftime and get blown out, to be outscored 35-7 in the second half.
Yep.
Is preposterous.
Yeah. And the start of the season, if I was selling a Penn State LSU national championship game, I mean, that wouldn't have been the top thing, but it certainly would have been in play.
Wouldn't have been crazy, yeah.
These are both teams with title aspirations, and that's the thing. It's totally submarining that. And then with Brian Kelly, there's the other piece that when it goes bad,
oh boy,
there are few guys who wear it going bad worse than Brian Kelly does.
Red-faced and all.
Yeah, he will take shots at players. He will take shots at assistant coaches. It just, you could just see that it was all just going south so fast. You could see exactly where this was going.
I didn't watch this whole game, but I watched. I actually didn't even watch much of it, but I watched enough of it to catch him absolutely just tearing into his, I think, special teams coordinator on the sideline, and it does underscore a point that like he is part of a class of coaches and a style of head coaching that is not just no longer in vogue, but it doesn't work anymore. And a great comp for this is comparing Ryan Day to Urban Meyer.
Okay.
How they show up on game day, how they show up with the media, how they show up with their players. Urban Meyer is from that era, and I think Kelly's from the same era of the coach is the thing, and schools will pay that coach a gajillion dollars because that coach is the only lever that they have to influence the other coaches that come through, to influence the players that come through, to influence the success and the eyeballs and everything else that comes with a strong football program. And now in 2025, with NIL portal, there's other levers, and the coach doesn't have the same power, but the coach that drives and leads with ego and by outshouting everyone, whether it's Kelly or Harbaugh or Urban Meyer,
your boy Dabo.
I don't know if Dabo. I mean, maybe, yeah. That perspective of like, I'm the only one that can solve this, that doesn't work anymore. And I don't think players respond to it. I don't think coaching staffs respond to it. And I just don't think it works. And I think, now that being said, this coaching carousel season this year is going to be so effing crazy. Brian
gonna
Kelly's
be nuts.
he's probably going to be able to get an awesome job
I'll
somewhere
be curious
if he
to
wants.
see
Florida,
where,
Penn
I'll be
State.
curious to see where he ends up. I don't feel like he's going to be in the running for those, but
Really?
I feel like, like some of those other jobs, like Arkansas. Why not in Arkansas, right? Like why not something like
I
that?
think
Or-
why not in Arkansas is like he's a northerner who was pretending to be southern for the past few years.
That accent.
Right, yeah, that's,
that
that's
accent.
Like
that's
I,
true.
I, thi- I think that
but
that
stuff's
rubbed
gonna
people
open
wrong.
up. Stuff's going to open up. What if Michigan State
yeah.
turfed
No, you're right.
Jonathan
Like Michigan,
Smith and was like, "Come back home, Brian."
yeah, BK, Michigan State would be an interesting fit for him, like for sure.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, but now the giant question is he going to get a payday that warrants whatever stipulations are in that buyout? And maybe there are no stipulations in the buyout because that's the sort of the shit that the SEC does. Like, yes, you can have $1 gajillion unchecked.
But it's a great point. Like Michigan State is a big one, and it's the kind of thing. These are all these crazy knock-on effects where Michigan State by the end of the season might be like, well, we could get Brian Kelly. So right, yeah. And then, if we keep moving forward in these games, though, we're going to arrive at the bell of the ball soon enough here. So,
the other one. Saturday morning, I guess. Who is it? Diana Rossini drops that Sarkeesian's people are actively engaging NFL folks on potential openings in the NFL, and that Sark would be open to it. Because if that opens up, like I still think LSU is probably the best job just because of all the lunacy that comes with Texas. But oh my God, for Texas, LSU, Penn State, Florida, all to be open at the same time, this will be the craziest coaching carousel year ever.
yeah, it's true.
Oklahoma's not safe.
No.
Auburn.
Yeah, I mean Auburn's coming open, right?
Yeah, I mean it's banana sandwich, guys. It's buckle up.
There's, the Vandy Mizzou game was a rock fight. That was a lot of people were really interested in that, and Vandy comes away with the win there. Again, I don't want to go through every single one, but I do want to point out one game.
Yeah.
That there's been a talk for next year. Who's going to open the new stadium?
Oh yeah.
Will the first game of this year be, will we play South Dakota State in the new stadium? Will we play them on the lakefront?
I would say I have a solid answer to whether or not we're going to play South Dakota State in the new stadium. That's a big no right now. I feel like we're headed in that direction.
Where I'm going with this is negative 18 yards of total offense by Colorado in the first half to 398 total yards of offense for Utah. Utah absolutely obliterates Colorado. And Deion Sanders is Deion Sanders, right? He is got the cult of personality. I mean, he brings eyeballs to the game. I wonder though, with his health and just the way things have just completely gone off the rails this year, will he be there next year? I don't know.
I know it is a real question, right? Like I'm very curious about that too. Doesn't have any more kids coming through the portal. I feel like the days of him pulling in all of the top talent, I think that's the same thing. I mean, and then whether it be negative recruiting or whatever, right? Like I just think, why is a 5-star going to go there right now, right? Like they're not hot, they're going in the wrong direction, and you don't know that he's going to be there. So yeah, it is interesting, and it does happen in the specter of and that's the thing, there is that feeling, and comments from Pat Ryan Jr. and hopefully we'll get a chance to down the road, hopefully maybe talk to Pat Ryan Jr. maybe even on the pod, and he can walk us through some of these things, including the timetable. But the thing that we don't exactly know because they were anticipating starting earlier. They anticipate it being open next fall, but when next fall is the question, and maybe it's not Colorado. We don't know. unless they move that SDSU game though, I'm looking at the tea leaves and being like, I don't think we're done on the lake. I mean, we will see.
So
But
there's one Big Ten team on our schedule who we have a TBA home game against that does not have an opponent currently scheduled for September 5th. And it is the Illinois Fighting Illini.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Everyone else has a dance partner that weekend. So our other Big Ten home opponents are Rutgers, Penn State, and Iowa, and they all have games on the 5th. Even Colorado has a game on the 5th. So unless,
but then the question is the 5th too early? Like that's the other thing. Like I don't know.
That would be too early for the new stadium. Yes, because that would be the traditional starting date for most schedules. So unless
we get a week 0 game unless the stadium's ready to go and we get a week 0 game at the end of August.
Yeah, I mean again, like I'm reading the tea leaves here, and what the tea leaves are telling me is that we may be going a couple games before this stadium is open. I guess we'll see. But in any case, yeah, you're right. I mean, relative to the Colorado game, there certainly is a lot. It feels like Colorado's really headed in a wrong direction, and what that means for Dion and what that means for eyeballs next season. Yeah, we will see.
So turning our attention to this weekend's game, we get to take a weekend off. Go to the pumpkin patch or recover from Halloween, being that it'll be November 1st. But there's some matchups that I think looked juicier at the earlier than
you didn't see now. This minus 20.5 spread coming for us.
Yeah, so Penn State, Ohio State, like you said, 20.5 points. Ohio State's favored at home against Penn State. They kept it big noon Saturday, so.
Yeah.
So the funniest outcome is 1,000% Ethan Grunkemeyer and this hobbled Penn State team rolling into the shoe and beating Ohio State for the first time in God knows how long. It would be the funniest thing. And
right.
Penn State didn't play last week. Neither did Ohio State. They're both rested.
If Shane Gillis walks through my front door right now and starts doing stand-up in my living room, that will also be the funniest thing. Neither of those things is going to happen.
I don't think this will happen, but crazier stuff, my guys. Crazier stuff.
Yeah,
mean, UCLA, Penn State. Maybe Penn State gets one back right here, right now.
Yeah. Forecast cloudy.
Yeah. Indiana's a 21.5 point favorite at Maryland.
Yep. Tracks.
Yeah. Yep. That tracks. I mean, again,
probably not enough against that defense.
We are dancing till we get to that Big Ten championship game, man. We all want to see Ohio State, Indiana so bad.
All right,
let's get there.
So Indiana has scored 56, 38, 30, I think it's only 20, 63, 73, 56, 27. The over-under for this game, the total for this game is 50.5.
Wow.
Weather looks good. Maryland has no defense.
Yeah.
I think Indiana's going to cover the total by themselves.
They very well could.
There's definitely a chance that just like in this game, the other Mendoza will be finishing this game just like he finished the UCLA game. I mean, again, Indiana's so good at every position. And you know what? Ohio State is pretty much there. Those teams are just the best 2 teams in the country. There's no doubt about it. And the Big Ten championships game is going to be off the chain.
I mean, the way in which Indiana is just killing everybody and has been doing it for 2 years is such an indicator of what confidence and the mental side of this game. Because pound for pound, that team is great. There are not 22 NFL stars on that team, but they are playing and performing like there are 22 NFL stars on that team.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and it does show you this is some of the true magic of college football, and I know we celebrated that Rose Bowl team a couple weeks ago against Purdue, and it's the perfect parallel. Yeah.
You've got Rutgers at Illinois. It's 11 a.m. on NBC. Rutgers is a 12.5-point dog on the road.
May Ethan Kaliakmanis throw for another 359 yards, and may this be an absolute dogfight to the end.
Amen. That's what I want to see. My gut is telling me Illinois is going to get a bounce back here at home.
Probably.
and very likely may majorly assert their ground game against Rutgers. I don't want to see it though. Let's see that dogfight.
It's going to be chilly. 44 degrees at is AccuWeather forecast at this point on Monday night for this upcoming Saturday. So we shall see. We've got Purdue at Michigan. Michigan's a 21.5-point favorite.
Again, it's the same kind of thing. I guess I will. What I don't want to see, but what will probably happen is Michigan's run game shred Purdue. Because I would love to see. I don't think Purdue's going to score any points. So the question is, what's Michigan going to do in this game? So we'll see.
This is going to be lopsided.
Yeah. Michigan State is at Minnesota.
This was interesting to me because whether or not Taylor plays, what kind of response do you get from Minnesota? Are they middling? Do they find the success that they were having earlier in the year?
Or last time they were at home when they whooped a 6-2 Nebraska.
Or do they continue to look like crap?
What's wild is
those options are on the table.
What's wild is Minnesota's a 3.5-point home favorite.
Yeah.
You expect it to be bigger?
I kind of did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of did too, just based on where both these teams are, but what Minnesota showed last time they were at home. But, again, if Taylor doesn't go, this is like the movable object against the stoppable force. So we're going to find out.
This is about the 7th time Darius Taylor is out. That's why that line is 3.5.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is
well, they probably haven't announced it yet. Like they probably.
Yeah. Darius Taylor injury is like the 3rd time this season. I've Googled this while we've been podcasting.
You asked ChatGPT if Darius Taylor's healthy.
Yeah, it's just it's a hammy. So that's the thing. Is like
it
keeps flaring up.
Yeah, it's a big injury, and he keeps trying to go, but
yeah.
And then
so that is a big injury.
Obviously it's a huge, massive looming thing. For hammies, game, which is still a long way off. But
hammies and high ankles for running backs. Just
those are doozies.
No
and
bueno.
Then finally on NBC 6:30, we got the aforementioned USC Nebraska game in Lincoln. USC is a 6.5-point road favorite.
This is my biggest takeaway out of this game, and it dovetails with what Scuzz was saying about mentality and the mentality of this football team and the mentality under which this football team plays its best football. USC is at Nebraska, at a Nebraska team that everyone in the nation knows is dead even with Northwestern right now. Every stat in that game, every bit of that game tells you that even if you're impartial and you don't have a dog in the fight one way or another, you're going to be like, basically, Nebraska, Northwestern, coin flip. If USC was at Northwestern, do you think the line would be USC minus 6.5? No. USC would be 12-point favorites at least, right? And that is the Northwestern chip. That is that disrespect bullshit that fuels the Northwestern fire, both the team and the fan base. It's like Nebraska's getting 6.5 at Nebraska just because of laundry, just because of some bullshit. And we know that we are dead even with them, and we know we never sniffed that line. And it's like, that's the coal to shovel into the engine of this Northwestern train.
I am really interested to see. So I maybe was biased by the announcers to this effect, but I felt like it was quite clear during that game that Nebraska's strength on defense is a lot of their players in the secondary, whether it's Wright or Marshall or some of their linebackers. Like their stats are very good against the pass, in large part because they've been so easy to run on by a lot of teams. How they match up against this USC passing attack, which is number one in the nation, is going to be fascinating. So this is it's a little bit. I mean, the best thing on the field is far and away USC's offense, but it is a little bit of strength on strength in terms of how both teams want to approach it, and that will be. I'm very interested to see how that plays out.
I don't want to go through too much of the rest of the national landscape. There are two games that I want to just at least point out. One kind of also falls in that laundry game. 11 a.m. ABC, Vandy at Texas. Texas is a 1.5-point favorite. What have you seen from Texas and what have you seen from Vanderbilt that leads you to think that Vandy shouldn't be a road favorite in this one?
On one side, you have the single most disappointing quarterback in the country who's recovering from a concussion right now. And on the other side, you have the guy I would pick for the Heisman Trophy right now. And it's minus 1.5. And Pavia it's to me, and this is, again, I'm on the record about this, not only on the pod, but in feisty discussions we've had about Heisman stuff in our text chains in years past. My favorite thing about the Heisman is how much vibes are a part of it. And Pavia's stats don't hold a candle to 5 to 10 other quarterbacks in the league. But to me, it's just like baseball. It's like if your question's who's the AL MVP and it's Aaron Judge or the dumper, and it's like, this is the dumper season. All anyone remembers from baseball season this year is the dumper and Shohei Ohtani. And it's like, that's your MVP. Pavia is college football this year. What he's doing at Vandy, he's their unquestioned rock. Without him, they would not be any of this. He is dragging that team week by week. And even when he doesn't have his best statistical game, everybody knows he's the engine that's making that whole thing go. What a lion. And I fully respect it. Again, it's like to Sam's point about laundry. Like, you've like Arch Manning being like, boy, I sure hope I can beat Vandy. And on the other side, Pavia's like, I'm coming in for your souls. I'm coming in to take everyone in that stadium's soul, and then I'm leaving. It's like...
So I don't disagree with anything you've said, but here's the counterpoint. So Vandy has been propped up by big wins over Virginia Tech, shitty team that fired their coach, South Carolina, not a good team. They got smoked by Alabama, like pretty well dominated by Alabama. They beat an LSU team that has proven itself to be a paper tiger that just fired their coach. And then they had it like an absolute rock fight, barely beat Missouri. And now they have to go on the road to play Texas, whose defense, like this past week against Mississippi State notwithstanding,
but Scuzz, you've
has looked
established
solid.
But Scuzz, you've established that Vandy's job here is to come in and beat teams whose coaches aren't going to be there at the end of the season.
Yeah. But again, if you're giving 3 points or even just 2.5 for home field advantage, you're saying on a neutral field Vandy would be favored. That actually feels like a pretty solid take here for me.
I bet this will be a low scoring game. So in that context,
And then the other game I want to mention is game day going to Utah for Cincinnati, Utah. That's awesome.
Let's go Cincy.
Yeah.
The hometown Bearcats have really surprised. I think I said off the top of the season, I just didn't think they were going to be that good. People have been very disappointed in Scott Satterfield. And then, they lost that game against Nebraska that really felt like they should have had it. And then here they are. They hammer people on the ground. Sorsby has been awesome. Former IU quarterback Brendan Sorsby, I might add, has been awesome. He just throws bombs and wins games throwing bombs. They've got they've moved Evan Pryor, former quarterback, to running back, and he's doing really, really well there. Their defense has been serviceable, not incredible, but serviceable. They held a really good Baylor passing attack in check last week. They got a lot of fun stuff going for them. This is going to be a really fun team to watch down the stretch. I don't know how they fare in the physicality and the altitude of Utah, but who knows? I'll be wearing my Bearcats jersey on Saturday night for sure.
Deep-seated conference rivals, goes back.
Classic Big 12
You can
matchup.
just taste the hate in the air. Literally hours of hate.
Classic regional rivalry.
Yeah. Sorry,
just like USC Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
Although they did play in a national championship game.
I don't hammer that joke too often, but every now and then it's just right there, and you got to take it.
That's perfect.
We got two more things to talk about before we go. Both
is Virginia Cal something you wanted to discuss?
No, I'm
speaking of regional rivalries.
Right, I'm actually good with the slate of college football.
Let's pivot.
I want to talk a little bit about. We want to go to Field Hockey Corner, and then we've also got a little some basketball to talk.
Let's talk about your Big Ten regular season champion Northwestern Wildcats field hockey team. They just continue to be unreal and played a good Michigan team and put up a 3-1 win on Friday to clinch the Big Ten regular season title. Goals from Salamanca, Sessa, and OBC. And then for a capper, they rested on their laurels. If by resting on their laurels you mean they obliterated Ohio State 7-0, which is the 63-0 of field hockey, effectively. I mean, first of all, they blew the doors off Ohio State. And the second thing is Ashley Sessa did the thing again. She did the thing just like last year where she scored a goal where you don't it's not just you don't know how she did it, it's that you didn't know you could do that in field hockey until she did it. Particularly for those of us who haven't watched field hockey too much outside of Northwestern. So last season, we remember that unreal goal where she basically air controlled the ball on her stick, just like running toward goal with the ball in the air, tapping up in her stick before like the most unbelievable finish. This one, as good. I mean, dealer's choice, which one you think is the more unreal goal. This one, the goalie was clearing the ball, cleared it in the air. Sessa caught it on her stick, controlled the clear straight up in the air, and then on its way down, crushed it on her stick for a goal. It's ludicrous. We put up a GIF of it on our Twitter feed. You can go look at it. You can look at the full video on the Field Hockey account. It's ludicrous. There's only like probably 2 or 3 players in the country that can do what she did, and this is why she's for our money the best that there is, the best player in the nation. And hopefully this is the kind of performance that's going to bring this team, going to bring her those kind of awards. We should mention that in the course of when we last potted and this team clinching the Big Ten title, they dropped to second in the poll, which is ridiculous, but is just going to add more fuel to the fire. But yeah,
who's first?
They're obvious. I believe it's UNC. I think is edged ahead of them in the NFHCA poll. I think that's true. I don't know if it's UNC. I'd have to look, but I just know the Cats slipped to second. But whatever, this is going to piss them off more. Obviously, again, like this is a team that won the Big Ten title and then went out and scored 7 goals against the team 2 days later. So they have one more against Michigan State, and then on into the postseason we go.
And this one kind of crept up on me. I knew that there were some exhibition basketball games coming up. I thought maybe they started next week. I didn't realize that we played Iowa State this week. And yeah, we're going to be talking basketball. We're going to be doing a bit of a basketball preview next week. Obviously, this team is got a lot of changes. It is, going to be a completely different team, and I can't wait to dive in and see what we're looking at.
I'm going to be, for all the listener base, here's a moment of extreme honesty from me, and I'm just going to keep it a total buck. I was looking at this exhibition game and seeing that Arrington Page started and that Max Green got 26 minutes off the bench. Those two guys were massive contributors, and I was like, I don't really know who these people are. I'm going to have to figure this out. We've talked about all the transfers, and I know we have transfers, but putting the names to the faces and seeing what these guys' roles are and how they play. And those are two of the transfers. That's to say nothing of any of the 5 freshmen on this recruiting class. And I know Trey Singleton also had a big game in this game. But it's just, there's so much catching up to do, I think, for all of us. And as Sam alluded to, the amount of turnover on this team is so massive. And that's not to say that there are not plenty, tons of tons of old faces. Obviously, Nick Martinelli, All-America candidate, being right at the head of that list. But there are 7, 8 guys that might log heavy minutes this season that we don't know thing one about, and we're going to be catching up on all of it.
Any last thoughts before we get out of here tonight?
No, I just that here we are, and I think that the game left a bitter taste in a bunch of people's mouths, right? And it's get it, totally understand, but at the same time, you're all blessed with knowing what this team is about and the talent and capability of this football team, and that should have you feeling in a really good place headed to the stretch here.
So with that, we'll go ahead and leave it there for tonight. Head to our website, westlawpirates.com, where you can leave comments and questions. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, at Westlaw Pirates. You can always email us, westlawpirates@gmail.com. Tune in next time as we give our visceral and statistical views on Northwestern athletics. And look for us in the west lot of Wrigley Field, flying the red pirate flag, because we give no quarter, especially the fourth. For John Lacombe and Eric Skasby, I'm Sam Walter. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.